Nothing podcast. I'm your host, Cece, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that I think we don't always realize while we're in the middle of growing, rebuilding, or just creating a new chapter in our lives. We spend a lot of time focusing on what we want to change, what we want to achieve, what we want to fix, where we want to go like next. Um, But here's the real shift that changes everything. It's not just about what you're trying to do, or, it's not just, the specific things that you're trying to uh, get, own. I don't know. Those things, material things like houses, cars, all of that is great. But it's about who you're becoming while you do it. And because the life you want requires a version of you that's ready to live it, you know, this part is important. And that's why the title of today's episode, um, I called it Become the Person Your Future Needs, because you really do need to become the person that your future can hold. And because the life you want requires that version of you, it really won't manifest until that version of you basically exists. And that version of you is being built right now, even in the ordinary days. Like, even when things feel a little messy or a lot of messy, um, even when you're still figuring things out as you go, guys. So let's talk about I, how like your identity shapes your action. A lot of people try to change their lives through action alone. And it's not to say that action isn't important, because it is. But a lot of people, they think if I just work harder, if I just stay disciplined, if I just push myself more. And while actions matters, action becomes sustainable when it's connected to identity. So your identity is very important, guys. And I talked about this before, that you really can't get that far without your identity. For example, think about somebody who says, I'm trying to work out. That feels temporary. Hi, Esther. Welcome in. Now, think about someone who says, I'm someone who takes care of my health. That's identity. Identity changes behavior naturally, right? So basically, because you start making choices, that matches the person that you believe you are. And so now let's talk about growth, you know, how it growth changes how you see yourself. One of the quietest but most powerful parts of personal growth is the way it changes your self-image. At first, you might see yourself as someone who is still learning, still rebuilding, still working things out, and that's real. But over time, guys, something really shifts. You begin recognizing your resilience, and you see the ways that you've continued moving forward. I've seen myself so many times just be so resilient and really just keep taking the next step forward, because I start to really see that that's a part of my identity, that tenacity in me, that's a part of who I am. And so, guys, when you notice how much stronger your mindset has become, and then little by little your internal story, it starts to change. And it's really important to change your story from going, into maybe a negative place where you aren't very kind to yourself, and you're filled with guilt or shame. It's really important to change your story. And so little by little, your internal story starts to change, right? And then You're not just someone trying to grow, you're someone who is growing. And that realization builds confidence. So let's talk about how becoming requires patience. And this is really important, guys, because we're talking about something that nobody loves hearing. Okay. Becoming takes time. We live in a world where everything moves fast. Fast information, fast results, fast expectations. You know, it's so different from, how it was before. We get so much information online, on the internet, social media, it's everything is just fast. And people expect you to literally change your life in a day. Like, but real personal growth has its own pace. You build habits slowly. You strengthen your mindset over time and you learn through experience. I learned so much about myself and my own patterns over the past just year alone. But it's been a whole lot of growth. But from learning my patterns and learning through my experiences, I've made some huge changes. I've dropped some habits that I carried for the past 5 years after going through a divorce that devastated me, after going through uprooting my life and becoming a single mother again. And sometimes you look back months later and then you realize, like, wow, I handle things differently now. That's growth. Growth isn't, oh, everything around me looks different now. Sometimes that takes a while to catch up, you know? So it's not dramatic, but it's real. And so let's talk about the power of alignment. And I use this word alignment a lot. My daughter hears me talk about alignment a lot. It just became my word because it's really important for me to stay in alignment with myself. And hi Lopez, welcome in. And it's really important for me to stick to what my true identity is in myself. And it takes, you know, just making sure that you're in alignment every single day. And, it doesn't take perfection, it just takes being aware most of the time. And so when you start focusing on who you're becoming, something really interesting happens. Your choices begin aligning with that identity. And then you start protecting your energy more and you become more thoughtful about where your time goes. And you notice which environments help you grow and which ones drain you. And this isn't about perfection. Like I said again, it's not about perfection, it's about awareness. Okay. And because once you become aware of your direction, your decisions naturally start supporting it. Your decisions will just sort of put you in the right place at the right time, supporting where your direction, where your path was meant to go. And it's scary because most of the times when you're in the unknown and you don't want to make a mistake and you remember maybe the choices you've made before, it feels like, okay, oh my God, I've been here before. And that's really what life, I feel like, is. It's kind of like if you imagine it like, a simulation. If I was watching something with my daughter and it was a gamer and on YouTube, and this game, it kept repeating every 12 minutes. This guy was trying to basically figure out this part of his life and it kept looping. And so you basically become aware because of the decisions naturally start supporting your direction. And every single thing that he was learning, every single piece of information about his life, about his past, everything was connecting. It started to support the direction of the game. And so it was pretty tied into today's message, which is pretty interesting that I just saw that today. But let's talk about letting yourself evolve. Okay. One thing I think is really important to remember, guys, is that you're allowed to evolve. Okay. You sometimes can get really stuck in like, but I used to be this person, or I used to be, oh, that's me. That's what I do. But you're allowed to evolve. We have one life. You can change. You don't have to always like the same things. It's okay to say, you know what, I changed my mind about that. I don't like that anymore, or I do like that now, you know, or I do those things now that I didn't do before, or vice versa. I don't want to be a part of these things. I don't want to be associated with those habits. I don't want to be associated with those people anymore. You're allowed to grow into a new version of yourself. And sometimes people around us get used to who we used to be, and that's not none of our business. That's their business, you know? And when we start changing, it can surprise them, you know? But growth isn't about staying the same for everyone else's comfort. Growth is about becoming more aligned with who you truly are. And that process deserves patience and compassion. So have a little bit of compassion on yourself. Have a little bit of patience in your growth. And know that you're going to have, different emotions in this process, but don't allow your emotions to lead. You have to tap into your intuition. You have to make sure that you are clear on your own identity. Not who anybody else wants you to be, but who you want to be. Focus on who you're becoming. And your future self is built today. If you think about the future version of yourself, the one who has built the life that you're working towards, then guys, that version didn't disappear overnight. They were built through daily choices, through consistency, through learning, through showing up even when things felt uncertain. And so the person that you're becoming tomorrow is truly shaped by what you do today. And that's powerful because it means every small step matters. And, it could mean I don't stress and worry about every little detail of my life. I'm not trying to fix my entire life in one day anymore. Every small step matters. Okay. And so, in closing, if you take anything from today's episode, let it be this: your growth isn't just about what you accomplish. Okay, guys? It's about who you're becoming along the way. The habits that you build, the mindset you strengthen, the resilience you develop, all of those things are shaping the person who will live the next chapter of your life. And that person is already being formed step by step. Thank you guys so much again for spending this time with me on the Anxious for Nothing podcast. If this episode spoke to you this week, share it with someone who might need this reminder too. Okay? And take a breath and just know everything is working out for you, my friend. Recognize how far you've come and then keep becoming the person that your future needs. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great week. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.